Hey, how you doing, guys? So we're out on the trails today, whipping over here to check out the camp, see how it's doing. We've got a lot of snow and a lot of freezing rain the last couple of days, and I want to do a quick announcement that we're going to be starting a fire skills series. Now, the reason for this is I've had a lot of questions recently and throughout my YouTube career of how it is that I use a ferro rod, and how come it makes it look so easy, what's the best one to buy, so on and so on. Many questions. So we're going to touch on that today. So let's head on over to the camp, have a seat, get these snowshoes off, and we'll get into it. So alright guys, here we are, we're out here now, and we're going to talk ferro rods. Now, basically, in short, a ferro rod is a rod of steel that you're going to scrape with another piece of steel or hard material to create a spark to light up some kind of tinder. So there are many different ferro rod manufacturers out there. So, you know, some people will claim this guy's good, some people will claim that guy's good. I've tried some that I liked and some that I've absolutely hated. But really, in the end, what I want to drive home to you guys is there's actually three parts or three things that are needed to have success with a ferro rod and to make a fire. Now, the first thing is actually the ferro rod. Now, today we're going to be using the Ferrofire XXL Survival Fire Starter. This is the new one that they came out with that I showed you a while back. It's got the 1/2 inch ferro rod on it. And it's 1/2 inches by, I think it's like 2.5 inches or something like that in length, or 2 3/4 inches. But I've lit fires with giant ferro rods. I've lit fires with long ferro rods. I've lit fires with very, very short and skinny ferro rods, all the way up to 1/16 thick, and that's almost nothing. And I've 1/16 by 1 inch, but the smallest ferro rod I've ever used was one off of a lighter, which was less than a 1/16 in diameter and less than 3/16 long. That was the smallest one I've ever made a fire with. Now, that said, there are three things that you're going to need to have success with a ferro rod, regardless of the quality and regardless of the size. Now, does size really matter? I'm going to say the short answer is yes. Can you have success with a small ferro rod? Absolutely no problem. You'll make a fire. And if you take a look at this clip right here, that I'm actually starting a fire with one of the smallest ferro rods I've ever seen, and it was a 1/16 by 1 inch long. Now, is it easier to light a fire with a larger ferro rod? Well, the short answer is yes again, but that little ferro rod that I had there took me, I think it was like 3 strikes to start a fire. I got the fire started. It was super easy. But that leads us to the second thing is your striker has to be good. If you're going to use a dull knife or a scraper of some kind, I've seen people use child scissors. I've seen people use their knives. I've seen people use homemade gadgets. I've seen people use one of these ceramic things, and a lot of them will work, but a lot of them won't. And the issue is that your striker has to have a good 90-degree spine, and it has to be harder than the steel you're using, the fire steel you're using. So if you want to make sure that you get sparks going, and you want to have good sparks to make your sparks fly, you got to make sure that your scraper is in good shape. As for ferro rod striking techniques, there's a few of them that I use. So most of the time, I put my ferro rod onto the material, onto the ground, and I'll strike, going towards the material to get my sparks. Oh, that wasn't planned, but other times, if I have a ferro rod like with a really fat handle, or my ferro rod short, sometimes I'll put the ferro rod down. I'll put my hand down on the ground, hold it tight there, and I'll pull the ferro rod back, and I'll fling the sparks basically basically down, and they'll light like that as well. So really what it comes down to is what you're most comfortable with. You're gonna need a good striker and a good ferro rod to get your fire lit. But does that guarantee you success? Nope, it doesn't. The most important thing you could think of, regardless of your striker, regardless of your fire steel, is your tinder selection. Now, I'm gonna bring you guys in a little bit closer in a minute, and we're gonna talk about tinder selection. All right, so let's open up the old tinder bag and we'll see what's in here. Open that up good. We got our extra stuffed up today, just for the demonstration. But here we have some jute twine, which is a nice flash tinder. So you'll separate this up from a cord, a jute twine cord, get it nice and fluffy, and you'll hit that up. Now, what else we got in here? Oh, we got some birch bark, 2 different kinds of birch bark, and a bunch of cattail. So let's get this. This is more of a thick birch bark, which I would call a regular tinder. This is a nice little ball of cattail with nice flash tinder. Here we have some Phragmites, which is also a Phragmites top, which is also a flash tinder. There you can see that little bit of cattail here, and basically you just bust it open, fluff it up, and now she's ready to rock and roll. So flash tinders, they call them flash tinders because once they hit a spark, they explode into flames right away or really quickly, and then they die out fast. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit this with a spark, and we're going to drop a piece of birch bark on there, see if we can get it to light. But we're going to see what happens when a spark hits a flash tinder. There we go. It lit and it burnt right out. You see that? It burnt right out because there was nothing on top of it. Fire likes to climb. So there you go. And there's our birch bark on fire. If we want to keep that going, we'd have to take this, turn it upside down, and that'll burn right up. So, flash tinder number 1 is cattail. Let's get rid of that. All right, so here we have a flash tinder number 2. This is Phragmites. This does not light as easy as that does, but it will light quite easily. So, we're going to see how this works. Another good a good flash tinder to use in your tinder bundle to catch your initial spark. There we go. That lit. One shot on snow. And here's a piece of birch to get lit. We're in business. So Phragmites, another thing that's very good for flash tinder. You could also use the fluff from dandelions if you found enough of them. You could use the pods from milkweed, take out the fluff from the inside of those. Those will work well as well. But there are some at home that you could use, like cotton balls, or this one here, which is jute twine that I've basically just separated. But I took this stuff off of this guy here, which is a ferro rod that I made a little sheath with out of fat wood, and I've wrapped it up in jute twine, and if I ever need some, I just cut off a piece, separate it all up, so I've got it all shredded up, and then it's got a nice fluffy consistency, just like the last 2 flash tinders that we used. And there you go. First shot, it's lit, but look how fast that lasts. It burns out quite quickly. Actually, these ones aren't too bad. They'll last a little while longer, but usually it doesn't take very long for it to burn out, and it's pretty much done. Now a cotton ball is very similar in behavior to the jute twine. It burns out quite quickly when you use it. So let's get into some other tinders. Here we have some smaller birch bark, some really light and fluffy stuff that's been dry. It's been on the tree in the sun. Now I did mention that we've had freezing rain here. This stuff had very little on it. It took a couple of strikes to get it lit, but there you go, it's lit. So this, because it has some oils in it and whatnot, you can see the black smoke coming off. It is going to burn a little bit longer at a higher temperature, and this is actually a very good tinder to get you started on. But not all birch bark is created equal. So let's explore that for a second. This is a nice thicker piece of birch bark. I'm going to hold this down, and we're going to spark the crap out of this, and we're going to see if we can get this to light. Let's try this piece. Flatten it out. Just doesn't want to light. Yes, I know we're on snow. Now I'm blasting this thing. I'm absolutely blasting this thing with with sparks. It's just not having it. All right, so here we have another piece of birch bark that is way too thick to actually take a spark. But what we can do is we can scrape it on up until we have some fine powder, about as fine as it can get. You could either use the 90-degree spine on your knife or the edge of your knife if you want to. It's not the end of the world. Keep on scraping it down until you have a nice little pile of dust. And when you think you have enough, you go ahead, put your birch bark on there, and then you're in business. So basically, if you see what we did there with this hard birch bark, is we took it, we scraped it down until it looked very similar to the flash tinders that we were using, like the Phragmites. Phragmites is nice, small, and fluffy, and so was the cattail. And we were in business. So what if you have no flash tinders in your area to catch a quick spark for you? Well, you can still make your own. So let's take a look at that. What happens if this is all you have to work with? We have a nice chunk of, I believe it's spruce. It's not even the best wood, to be honest. It's a little bit punky. I'm just going to stick my tinder bag down here for a second, and we're going to get to work on it. Trying to create something that's going to be able to take a spark. Now, we all know that if really resiny or really oily birch bark's not going to take a spark by hitting it with some sparks, this chunk of wood definitely isn't. But we can go ahead and make feather sticks. Now, a good rule of thumb is the more curls or more turns you have per piece, the thinner your curls are going to be. Now, you've heard me say a bunch of times in my videos that I am not a big feather sticker. I don't do it very often. I'm not very good at it, and I actually prefer a different way. Now, what I like to do is actually make like a dust. So I use the spine of my knife, and I scrape these, very similar to feather sticks, these little piles of dust. There we go. There's our feather sticks, nice and lit. There we go. Got flame. Oh, it just went out. There we go. Got it nice and lit. And usually, you'll be able to continue it on with your feather sticks or your birch bark or whatever else you want to use. So as you saw there, guys, we were able to create nice thin feather sticks to catch a spark, and we were able to create some dust to catch a spark. Now, really, the big secret out of all of this is very simple. Now, I know guys are going to be sitting there talking about surface area and properties and all that stuff, but what does that really mean? Really, what it comes down to, the biggest secret of them all is the closer you can get your tinder to the size of your sparks, the more success you'll have. Let's just round this all up. So the first thing you're going to want to make sure you have is a good quality ferro rod. Now, I wouldn't go and say that size really matters unless you're going into these microscopic sizes. Then your tinder preparation has to be premium. You have to have excellent tinder. It has to be really good shape, dry, and all that. But when you get into those ferro rods that are around this size and up, those 1/4 inch rods and up, you're pretty much set. So first thing is, have yourself a good quality ferro rod. Get yourself a good striker, whichever one you decide to use. The back of your knife, high-speed striker, one of these ceramic jobbies here, whatever you decide to use, make sure that you have a good quality striker on there. As long as you have a good striker, then you'll know that you're going to be throwing the best sparks you possibly can. And the third thing is, don't be lazy when you're processing your materials. Make sure you get them down as small as you can, as tight as you can. Make those feather sticks twist and turn and curl up as much as possible. If you're having a hard time with feather sticks and you're not that good at them, then turn that knife over, get the scraper out, and scrape that material down until you get a nice pile of fine dust. And you know what? Don't skimp out. Give yourself a good amount, a good 1.5 inch round pile of dust, and then get your curls over onto the other side. Because as soon as that flame's going, you drop those curls on top. Gently drop those curls on top. It's gonna catch fire. So you can either make yourself a bunch of little feather sticks like this, have some birch bark, some kind of tinder, but whatever it is you choose to use, make sure you get those things as close as to the size of the spark you're going to be sending off of your ferro rod, and you'll have success. I hope this makes sense, guys. But anyway, all that said, all my jibber jabbering aside, hopefully this will help somebody out. I got to get a quick fire started now because I'm hungry as hell.
But it should stay lit just long enough to warm up my soup. And that's all I really care about right now. So I'm gonna get close to this and enjoy the heat while it lasts.
Sorry guys, if you like the way this Survival Fire Starter XXL from Ferro Fire performed today, I'll be giving one away. So this video just turned into a giveaway. That's right. And how do you enter? Just give me a hell yeah down in the bottom of the description, and you're in. So when I do the next segment of this fire skills series, I will be announcing the winner in that. So you guys stay tuned and keep your eyes peeled, and when I do that next video, I will be announcing the winner. Now, what are the rules? It's very simple. You give me a hell yeah, be a subscriber, and be sure to check the links in the description if you want to go ahead and see what else Ferro Fire has to offer. I'm going to add on their website and their Amazon link. So thanks for watching, guys. Get out and explore. I'll see you in the next one, and don't forget, give me a hell yeah.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this video, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. But I've also got a couple other videos for you to watch. The first one is the field test of the Survival Fire Starter XXL from Ferro, or you can check out another video on how a ferro rod saved my life one day.